Hi guys, so welcome ulit sa ating YouTube channel. Ito na yung lesson 20. So this is all about continuity involving sequences. So meaning i-apply na natin yung natutunan natin sa sequence dito. Okay, so before that, recall muna tayo. Recall that the salient feature of a function f, or parang pag sinabi mong salient, parang kumbaga parang property na siya, or I think in that, not just property, parang defining property or defining feature of a function f. Or ito, the set on which f is defined, called the domain of f, and written dom of f. Okay, then the assignment rule or formula specifying the value of f(x) of f at each x in the domain f. Yan yung mga parang, yun nga, pag sinabi natin function, alam mong common nating alam. So alam natin na yung domain niya galing dun sa kanyang sa domain of f, tapos yung meron siyang formula or assignment as a rule or formula. So kunyari f of x equal to x squared plus 2, so nag-substitute ka ng x na 2, so papalitan ko yung dot ng x doon. Okay, so yun yung mga salient features niya. Okay, so definition, yun ito definition bago to. Okay, so let f be a function mapping from domain going to real number and c element of the domain. We say that f is continuous at c. Okay, if and only for every sequence x sub n in D that tends to C, the sequence of f of x sub n tends to f of C. Ano yung ibig sabihin yan? Kunyari daw yung f. Kunyari sa f of x is continuous at C. Kung continuous siya at C, may mag-exist na sequence, okay, na nagtatend sa C. Okay, sure yan. So, may nag-exist na sequence na nagtatend sa C. Nagtatend sa C. So, if then ibig sabihin yung f of x sub n, so dalawang ganyan talaga, implies f of c. Yan yung ibig sabihin ng definition yan. So ibig sabihin ng kung kunyari continuous siya, pwedeng ganito rin, pwedeng yung limit nung x sub n is equal to c, pwede rin yan. Okay, so dalawang klase yan, it's either ito or ito. So, basta, yung f of x is continuous at c. Sir, ano yung klaseng sequence? So, parang, parang let x lang, or parang variable lang siya. So, basta may sure akong sequence na magtetend dun sa c na yun. Kung ano man yun. Tapos, since mayroong ganun sequence, therefore, yung f of x sub n is approaches f of c. Ganun ibig sabihin. Okay, so, gawin natin is, may isang definition. Ito, actually, parang nasabi ko na last time. Dati pa sa mga older video, or sa mga dati pang video. I think sa video 2 pa lang, or 3. Okay, so theorem 1, let f be a real valued function whose domain in a subset of R. Then f is continuous at C in domain of f if and only if for every epsilon greater than 0 there exists delta greater than 0 such that x element of domain of f and x minus c is less than delta implies f of x minus f of c is less than epsilon. Okay, so yun lang naman na ganun na. Ito yung parang epsilon delta definition or epsilon delta property ng theorem 1. So, tanda na, ito yung epsilon delta property ng theorem 1. So, ngayon gagamitin natin yung unang definition, tas yung theorem na to para ma-prove, para masabi natin na isang function is continuous. Okay, so I think kasi wala pa ako nabigay na example na how to show the function is continuous using yung ganito. Okay. Okay, so let's have example. So, examples. Number 1, so let f of x is equal to 2x squared plus 1 for x element of real numbers. Prove that f is continuous on R by letter A using the definition. So yung kanina, mag-assume ka ng maghahanap ka ng sequence na magtatend dun sa sinasabi niya. Then using the epsilon delta property. Okay, so sabi niya let f of x is equal to 2x squared plus 1 for x element of real numbers. Prove that f is continuous on R. So, I think x not yata yun. Tama lang. Okay, so gagawin natin una. So, for letter A, dito na lang. Okay, suppose yung limit nung x sub n is equal to c. Okay, so another thing, since f of x is continuous at c, element of real number. So, yan na yung ginamit ko So, kunyari, suppose let f of x equal to 2x squared plus 1 element for x element of real numbers. Prove that f is continuous on R. So, suppose c is element of real number. such that yung f of x is continuous dun sa c na yan. So arbitrary yan. Ngayon, suppose na yung limit of x sub n is equal to c. Kasi ito nga yung ginagawa natin. Okay, kasi yung ginagamit natin ng definition. So ito yung gagamitin natin na property. So we need to evaluate, di ba sabi nga nila, kung meron akong limit ng x sub n is equal to c, this implies that f of x sub n must be equal sa f approaches to f of c. Ganun dapat mangyari. So ang gagawin natin, consider cf of x sub n o yung limit ng x sub n. Okay, so this is equal sa f of limit nung x sub n. I-apply ko siya. Then applying doon, this is equal sa, so diba na f of limit of x sub n. Ngayon, since continuous siya sa lahat ng real number, pwede ko ilabas yung limit. This is equal sa limit of f of x sub n. Okay, then this is equal sa limit of, this is 2x sub n squared plus 1. Okay, then so wala yan. Okay, next is pag in-apply natin to, this is equal sa 2 limit of x sub n squared plus limit of 1. Tama, then ang mangyari, since limit ng x sub n squared is c, therefore ito ay magiging c. Okay, so in which this is equal sa 2c squared plus 1. Ngayon, ano yung 2c squared plus 1? Pag in-evaluate mo yung f of c, this is equivalent lang sa f of c. So try mo evaluate yung f of c. Ang lalabas sa f of c is 2c squared plus 1, which is yun nga. Okay, so make sure na ganyan mo na magiging forma. So parang nangyari, ito ay parenthesis natin. So parenthesis may squared. So para magamit may assumption na limit of x sub n is equal to c. So limit of x sub n 2c squared plus 1, or limit of 1 is 1. Okay, then therefore that is f of c. So therefore c is yung f of x is continuous at c. So yan yung una by definition. So next is for letter B, gamitin natin epsilon delta property of theorem 1. So for letter B, paano ba gagawin natin? So paano ba gagawin na sa letter B? Let epsilon be greater than 0, kasi ganun yung assumption, no? So there exists delta greater than 0 such that, so sabi, no, let epsilon, ito yung proof, let epsilon be greater than 0. So there exists delta greater than 0. Okay, such that x element of domain of f and yung x minus c, tama, no, x minus c is less than epsilon, implies f of x minus f of c is less than delta. Okay, so ayun ang gagawin natin. Ngayon, ang gagawin natin is papalitan na natin to somewhat, kasi nga may x minus c na tayo, no? So yung x minus c, baliktad yata ako, x minus c less than delta. Okay, so this is less than delta and this is epsilon. So wala tayong delta na nabanggit dyan. Okay, so yung x minus c is less than delta lang. So maghanap tayo mamaya ng delta na gagamitin natin. Okay, so consider natin si f of x minus f of c less than epsilon, kasi doon naman talaga tayo mag-i-start. So consider, so hoping na magkasya, consider si f of x minus f of c. Okay, so by definition of function, this is equal sa 2x squared plus 1 minus 2c squared plus 1. Okay, which is equal sa, this is just equal sa 2x squared, tas 1 minus 1 cancel, so this is minus 2c squared. Okay, then this is equal sa, pag pinactor, this is 2 times x minus c tapos x plus c. So note na meron tayong x minus c. Tama, meron tayong value ng x minus c. So ano value ng x minus c natin? Ang value ng x minus c natin is delta. supposed to be. Pero ito mangyari. Ang gusto ko mangyari, i-assume natin for x minus c, kasi easy na to eh. So for x minus c less than 1. Okay, kumbaga nag-let ako ng delta less than 1. Kumbaga ito yun, delta less than or equal to 1. So gumamit na ako ng, so suppose yung x minus c is less than 1. So mangyari, ano yung x plus c? So paano natin mahanap yung value ng x plus c? Kasi wala tayong value ng x plus c. Kasi wala naman talaga totally. So ulit tayo, x minus c is less than delta. Ngayon, for x minus c less than 1, for which yung delta is less than 1. Kung ba pinatang ko yung delta na 1, kaya yun nangyari. Okay, so ngayon, ang gagawin ko, from here, yung x minus c is less than 1 by triangle equality, that is absolute value of x plus absolute value of c is less than 1. Okay, so sorry, hindi ko gagamitin to. Ito yung plus, yung x plus c. So aware din ako na yung x plus c, di ba? Since x minus c is less than 1 tayo, yun yung ginawa natin. Or less than delta. Okay, yung x plus c ko gagawin kong less than 1. Kasi bakit? Ang gagawin ko, di ba delta na to? 2 delta tas x plus c. Ngayon, yung x plus c ko, assume ko na siya ay less than 1. Okay, for delta less than 1. Sir, bakit mo ginawang less than 1? Imagine mo kung gagawin ko pa siyang 4 or 2 pataas or 1 pataas, ang laki na niya. Kumbaga, yung distance ng dalawang ng f of x sa f of c, masyado na malaki. So, what if gawin natin siya less than 1? Para sure tayo, mas liliit. Kumbaga, 2 times fraction naman napakaliit, which is less than 1. Liliit siya. So, yung x plus c less than 1 is equal sa x, absolute value of x plus absolute value of c less than 1. In which, what is absolute value of x? Absolute value of x is less than, this is equal sa kumbaga yung galing sa function na ito, tawag dito, diba, yung x plus c is less than 1, yung x minus c. Okay, ito nga, naguluhan ako dun. So let natin na delta less than 1. So we have x minus c is less than 1. Okay, then by absolute value, ano magiging value na natin dyan? So that is absolute value of x minus absolute value of c, then less than 1. In which that is absolute value of x is less than absolute value of c plus 1. Okay, by triangle inequality, yung ibang form. Okay, ngayon, ito gagamitin ko para mahanap yung value ng x plus c. So, ano yung value ng x plus c natin? So, yung value ng x plus c natin, which is equal or less than or equal sa absolute value of x plus absolute value of c. In which papalitan natin yan, that is less than or equal sa absolute value of c plus 1 plus absolute value of c, which is equal sa 2 absolute value of c plus 1. Yan yung magiging value or something 2c plus 1. So, ibig sabihin, ano mangyari dito? Ito ay equivalent sa somewhat na, diba, parang ito is equivalent sa ito, magiging form na ito. This is 2. Tapos x minus c, ano yung x minus c natin? 2 plus x minus c times itong part na to multiply by 2 times absolute value of c plus 1. Yan yung magiging equivalent niya. Ngayon, ang gagawin natin dyan sa value na yan is somewhat, diba alam natin to less than epsilon. Kasi galing niya sa umpisa eh. F of x minus f of c less than epsilon. So, 2x minus c times 2c plus 1 less than epsilon. Solve natin yung x minus c. So, si x minus c, okay, is less than or equal to epsilon over 2 times 2c plus 1 something. Okay, so therefore ito yung value ng delta. Pero ito nangyari. Ano yung magiging delta natin? So take delta. Okay, so take delta to be the minimum or to be the minimum within the set containing 1 kasi may 1 ako na nalet doon. Tapos yung nahanap ko na x minus c, which epsilon over 2 times 2c plus 1. Okay, yan yung dalawang value. So, as we take that, as we take yung mga value, those values, 'di ba, minimum na, meaning yung mas maliit sa kanila, whether ito. Okay, so if we take that value, so this implies, 'di ba, anong nangyari? let epsilon greater than 0. Maghahanap ka doon ng delta, which is greater than 0, in which nakahanap ko ng delta, in which yung minimum between 1 and epsilon over 2 times 2c plus 1. Since nakahanap ako nun, x minus c is less than delta, in which kung sino man sa kanila yan, implies, okay, so this implies that absolute value of f of x minus f of c is less than epsilon. So ulit nakahanap ko ng delta, in which that is 1, saka yung epsilon over 2 times 2c plus 1, okay, yung kasi nga yung goal ang goal ko, sa kada epsilon na greater than 0, makahanap ako ng delta greater than 0, in which ito yun, okay, such that yung x minus c is less than delta, meron tayong ulit nun, then f of x minus f of c is less than epsilon, and therefore this is done. Therefore f is continuous at any value or at any c element of real number. So again, similar approach din yun so yung x minus c yung less than 1 ko, tapos hahanapin ko yung value ng x gamit yun. Okay, thus make sure nang sosolve mo lang yung x minus c kasi siya yung delta dito. Okay, so again ito yung delta natin, kaya nasabi kong delta yan. Okay, then sir, bakit may 1? Kasi naglat ako ng 1 doon. Okay, so next, another example, check natin. Let f of x is equal to x squared sine 1 over x for x not equal to 0 and f of 0 is equal to 0. Prove f is continuous at 0. So, paano ba yung function na to? Okay, so yung function na to is pwede kong ilagay sa ganito, f of x is equal to x squared sine 1 over x for x is not equal to 0 and 0 for x is not equal to 0. So, napakadali na gusto nang gawin. Prove natin na si f is continuous at 0. Okay, so I think mas madali yan dyan. So, before that, note that remember lang na si negative 1 is less than or equal sa sine 1 over 1x. Okay, so for any value of sine, yan lang yung maximum value ni sin x. Okay, so maximum value is 1, minimum value is negative 1. So, literal, si sine 1 over x, pwede natin, palitan natin as 1 or assume natin as 1. Okay, so tulad nung ginawa ko nito, may maximum value ko na lang sa kanya is 1 kasi nga, nililimit ko lang na dapat maliit yung values niya. Okay, so we need to prove na siya ay continuous sa 0. So, paano yun? Ito yung proof. Okay, so let epsilon greater than 0. So find delta greater than 0 such that yung x minus 0 is less than delta implies yung f of x minus f of 0 kasi 0 yun is less than epsilon. Okay, so consider natin itong part na to. So consider si f of x minus f of 0 less than epsilon. Okay, next is, siyempre f of 0 is 0. So this is f of x minus 0. Okay, then this is equal to f of x pala is, that is x squared sine x. Sine 1 over x minus 0. Okay, then gamitin ko yung ginamit ko na remember na si sine 1 over x is less than or equal to 1. So, probably magbabago yan. So, this is less than or equal sa x squared times 1 minus 0. Okay, in which this is equal sa absolute value of x squared. Okay, ngayon, babaguhin ko konti para magamit ko yung x minus 0 na to kasi ito yung ginagamit. So, this is equal sa absolute value ng x minus 0 squared. Okay, in which this is less than epsilon. So, note that this is delta square less than epsilon. So, therefore, delta is less than square root of epsilon. So, we need to choose lang natin. So, choose delta to be square root of epsilon. Okay, so since ito yung nangyari ulit, nakahanap na tayo ng delta which is less than 0 kasi square root of epsilon yun, sobrang liit niyan. Okay, therefore this implies that x squared minus sine 1 over x minus 0 is less than epsilon. So kanina nangyari lang is f of x minus f of c. Suppose dapat pala talaga ang lalagay natin is si 2x squared plus 1 minus 2c squared minus 1, which is ito na lang din yung pwedeng ito ilagay nyo, yung 2x squared minus 2c squared. Although okay lang naman, pero mas maganda lagay may function para may basis tayo, tulad na itong ginawa ko. Okay, so therefore this is done. Okay, next is for number 3. Let f of x is equal to 1 over x sine of 1 over x for x is not equal to 0. So parang similar, no? Then 0 for x is equal to 0. Show that f is discontinuous at x is equal to 0. So tama naman, no? Discontinuous siya at x is equal to 0. Kasi pag x is equal to 0, sagot sa function is 0. Pero ang dating, pag pinalit ko yun, no? 1 over 0 something. Okay, so kailangan natin ma-show na siya ay discontinuous. So paano ba natin ma-show na isang function is discontinuous? Sir, dapat i-assume mo na siya ay continuous. Pero naalala niyo ba yung ating definition ng continuity? Okay, so yung definition o yung theorem ng continuity natin, kung naalala nyo, is yung for every epsilon greater than 0, there exists delta greater than 0 such that x minus c is less than epsilon. Sorry, hindi yun. Naalala niyo isang definition, yung if f of x is continuous at c, there exists a sequence of x sub n na approaches to c such that f of x sub n approaches to f of c. So, naalala niyo yung ganun, no? Ben, hinahanap ko kasi yung value. Ito rin yung nakakalito dito sa math. Ang dami kong notes, lalo sa advanced calculus, kaya talagang medyo ang hirap maghanap minsan, lalo pag magdi-discuss na ako. Okay, so ito recall lang natin. Naalala nyo yung definition? So by definition, kung meron akong x sub n na nagtetend sa c, if then f of x sub n tend to f of c. Okay, so anong gagawin ngayon ni sir? Ang gagawin ngayon ni sir is kukunin ko yung papalitan ko, parang inanigate ko siya something kasi for all to So pag ninigate ko siya or babaliktad rin ko konti para ma-show natin na siya ay not continuous, ito gagawin natin. To show that f is not continuous at x is equal to c, we use this if f of x sub n approaches not approaches to f of c, but x sub n approaches to c, then f is not continuous at x is equal to c. So punta natin dyan. Ano bang nakalagay? Para daw masabi natin na isang function is not continuous at c, ito gagawin natin. I-evaluate ko yung f of x sub n. Okay? Pero dapat yung f of x sub n does not approach to f of c. So anong gagawin natin? Hahanap ka ng sequence na nagtetend dun sa c. So ang gagawin natin, hahanap tayo ng sequence na nagtetend sa 0. So hindi na to arbitrary sequence na x sub n lang. So hahanap ka na talaga literal, magde-define ka. So hahanap ka ng sequence na nagtetend sa c such that yung f of x sub n does not approach to f of c. So meaning yung f of x sub n hindi siya magiging equal sa f of c. Okay? So then, pag gano'n na nangyari, pag nakahanap ko ng ganun sequence, then f is not continuous at x is equal to c. Okay, so ngayon, dalawa yung method na gagawin ko. Sir, bakit dalawa? Papakita ko sa iyo yung maling way, or meaning yung maling nahanap ko, tapos yung tamang nahanap ko. Okay, so hindi ko sasabihin kung mali o tama yung nahanap ko for the meantime. So, unang solution, or first proving, naki-green ko na lang siguro para mas maganda. Ang gagawin ko, 'di ba, hanap tayo ng x sub n. So define natin sa x sub n. So define x sub n to be the sequence of 1 over sine 1 over 2 n pi, 1 over 2 n pi. Bakit ako may sine? for n element of natural number. O, check natin. Yung sequence na dinefine ko is 1 over 2n pi. Okay, pi is something 360, 18, pi is something, ano ba? Nakalimutan ko na value nito ni pi, sorry. Basta si 2n pi is something 360n, ganun. Okay, for n element of natural number. So, as n approaches infinity, so lagay ka lang ha. As n approaches infinity, si x sub n magte-tend kay 0. So, sure ako dyan. So, anong nangyari? Nakahanap ako ng sequence na magte-tend sa 0 kasi yun yung hinahanap natin eh. Kasi ito yung value ng x. So, i-name ko lang siya yung x natin. So, alam ko siya yung x. Okay, ngayon, i-check ko ano yung f of 0. Ano ba yung f of 0 by the way? Sir, f of 0 based sa function is 0. Kasi, sino 0? F of 0 is 0. Okay, so ngayon, try natin si f of x sub n. Ano si f of x sub n? Si f of x sub n, dito ko nalagay, si f of x sub n equal kay f of 1 over 2n pi. Tamang palakpakan lang sa labas. Okay, then, papalit ko sa function. Since hindi siya 0, papalit ko yun doon. So, this is equal sa 1 over 1 over 2n pi, then sine of 1 over 1 over 2n pi. Okay, in which this is equal sa 2n pi, then sine ng 2n pi. Yan, ano value ng 2n pi? For all n, so for n element of natural number, kung napapansin mo, or kahit integers pa yan, yung value ng sine 2n pi is always 0. Is always, tama, 0. Okay, so this is always equal sa 0. Okay, which mean, ito yung f of 0. Ngayon, ano nangyari? Yung f of x sub n ko, nag-a-approach kay f of 0. Kasi nga, yung f of x sub n ko, pinalit ko, 0 sagot. So ngayon, nasatisfy ko ba yung gusto mangyari? Ang sabi niya, naghanap ka ng x sub n approaches to c such that yung f of x sub n is not equal to f of c. Tapos saka natin masabing continuous. Ngayon, ano nangyari? Nakahanap ka ng x sub n, nag-a-approach sa 0, pero nung pinalit ko yung f of x sub n sa function, ang lumabas sa kanya is 0. Tapos yung f of 0 is 0. Therefore, this is not continuous. Therefore, hindi tama yung nahanap ko na sequence. Okay, so meaning define ako ng panibagong sequence ulit. So, ito na yung tama na naisip ni sir. So, to improve. Okay, so let natin na si sequence. So, i-revise ko lang konti yung nabigay ko. So, ang gagawin ko, maglalagay ako ng something na, since periodic kasi yung 2n pi, kasi pinapalit ko sa sign eh. Napapansin nyo, no? So, basta bakit mo ginawa 1 over 2n pi? Ginawa kong 1 over 2n pi kasi alam ko na dapat maging sign something siya. So, sign something na periodic. So, mas sinecure ko na pumupunta siya dun sa parang sa may quadrantal angle dun sa 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 or 270. So, dito nga lang ang nangyari, 1 over 2n pi, papunta lang siya sa 360. So, meaning, papunta. In which yung value ng sign is always 0. So, nagkamali ako ng diskarte. So, what if ang gawin ko? Papuntahin ko siya lagi sa 90 degrees sa taas. So, paano ko gagawin to? So, periodic siya. In such case, nagagawa ko ng gantong function. This is 1 over 2n pi plus pi over 2. Check nyo. So, sir, periodic yan. Sure yan. So, laging periodic plus 90. So, 360 plus 90, always sa 90 degrees pupunta. So, may value do kasi dun si 90. Si sign dun is always 1 or something. Okay, so therefore, this implies, so this is approaches 0. This approaches 0 as n approaches infinity. So, nakahanap ulit ako ng sequence na nag-approach sa 0. Tama. Next, ipapalit natin yan sa, so, aware naman tayo f of 0 is 0 na. So, no need na i-prove yan. So, check natin sa f of x sub n. So, consider sa f of x sub n in which equals kay f of 1 over 2n pi plus pi over 2. This is equal sa 1 over 2n pi plus pi over 2. Then sine ng 1 over 2n pi plus pi over 2. Okay, so pag nirevise, that is equal sa 2n pi plus pi over 2. Then sine ng 2n pi plus pi over 2. Okay? So, aware tayo, ito ay laging nag-approach siyang sa 1. So, sure ako, for any value of n, this is always 1. Kasi periodic siya eh. 90 degrees lang natin lagi ito eh. So, terminal lang yung 450 plus another 360 plus another 360. So, lagi sure ako lagi ito 90 degrees. Okay? So, since lagi 90 degrees, sin 90 degrees is always 1. Therefore, 1 times something na ito. So, 2n pi plus pi over 2. So, as n approaches infinity, this is equal sa ito ay infinity times 1. Kasi 2 times infinity yan eh. Okay, then therefore, this is equal sa infinity. So, ano nangyari? Nakahanap ako ng f of x sub n na hindi equal kay f of 0, which is 0. Okay, kasi yung f of x sub n ko is infinity. Therefore, ano masabi ko? So, f is not continuous at x is equal to 0, and that is done. So ito yung diskarte. Pag may sine cosine, lagi kang maglagay ng 2n pi. So abangan mo konti. Kung hindi dito somewhere, kung 2n pi, kunyari cosine, probably 2n pi kailangan mo. So, ulit ko lang, pag cosine, probably kailangan mo 2n pi. Pag sine, probably kailangan mo is 2n pi plus pi over 2. Yan yung mga usual cases natin. Okay, so pero hindi ko naman lagi sinasabi na laging cosine and sine yung involved dito. Okay, so again, ganun yung gagawin mong diskarte. Kailangan makahanap ka ng sequence na nagtitend sa C natin. Tapos gagawa ka ng f of x sub n, dapat hindi siya mag-tend sa f of c. Okay, and therefore, masasabi natin na si f is not continuous by this. Okay, so next tayo. Okay, so let's have theorem number 2. So let f be a real valued function with domain of f subset of real number. If f is continuous at c, then the absolute value of f, or the absolute value of f of x is equal to, and kf for k element of real number are continuous at c. So gawa tayo ng function, no? So let x sub n, so ito yung proof. Let x sub n be a sequence in domain of f, okay, that converges to C. Okay, so ayun yung gagawin natin. So by definition natin, since meron tayong ganyan, okay, we have limit, by definition we have limit of x sub n is equal to limit of x sub n is equal to C, implies limit nung f of x sub n is equal to f of c. So gamitin natin ang assumption na yan. So we need to show that kf is continuous at c. Okay, so ito yung una, for letter una, for let lang natin, let k element of real number. Okay, so note o consider si limit of k multiplied by f of x. So applying yun, so this is equals a limit nung k times f of x sub n. Since k is a constant, pwede ko siyang ilabas sa limit. So this is k limit of f of x sub n. Then limit of f of x sub n is k f of c. Okay, so therefore, so kf is continuous at x is equal to c. So ayun yung una. Next is, we need to show na yung absolute value of f of x is continuous. So paano natin i-show na yung absolute value of x is continuous? So para ma-prove natin na siya ay continuous, kailangan natin mapakita syempre ganito, no? Our goal para sa sunod, our next goal is yung limit ng absolute value of f of x sub n is equal sa absolute value of f of c. Yan yung next goal natin. Kailangan mangyari yan. Okay, so check natin to. Pag nag-show tayo ng function, kung naalala nyo, so consider natin inequality na to. So consider this inequality. So, ibang approach. Consider yung absolute value of f of x. Okay, f of x sub n. Okay, minus absolute value of f of c. Okay, then this is less than. So, saan siya less than? Alam ko less than siya dito. Absolute value of f of x sub n minus f of c. So, ito mas maraming absolute value. Kumbaga doble. Okay, so ngayon, ang gagawin natin, since alam natin yung limit of f of x sub n is f of c, tama? Yung limit ng f of x sub n is f of c, ano mangyayari? There exists n, ulit-ulit ko lang since yung limit of f of x sub n is equal to f of c. Okay, there exists, gawa tayo, there exists n for n greater than n such that yung absolute distance nung f of x sub n minus f of c is less than epsilon. Okay, so ano definition? By definition of converging sequence. Naalala nyo, ganyan yung definition of converging sequence. Since ganyan, this implies na, which implies that for n greater than n, we have ito. Ito ulit ito continuous na dahil ito ay continuous na dahil nga dito. Ito yung definition ng converging sequence. Ayun yung definition dati. Okay, since totoo to, therefore pwede natin i-revise kasi mas malaki lang siya dun Kumbaga, ako continuous, may mas maliit sa akin something. So alam ko continuous din yun. So for n greater than n, si f of x sub n, si absolute value of f of x sub n is less than absolute value of f of c, which is less than epsilon. So, absolute value of f is continuous at x is equal to c, and therefore this is done. Okay, so ganun yung naging flow nung proving. So next is let f and g be real valued function that are continuous at c in real number. Then f plus g is continuous at c, f times g is continuous at c, f over g is continuous at c if g of c is not equal to 0. So anong gagawin natin dito? Since nagko-consider tayo ng sum, product, tas quotient, ibang domain yung pinag-uusapan. So hindi natin basta kukuha tayo ng domain, may domain, yung x, yung sequence na x sub n sa domain lang ng f, yung sequence ng x sub n sa domain na ng g. Hindi pwedeng ganun. Kailangan gagawa ka dito ng domain nung intersection ng dalawa. Okay, domain ng f tas domain of g. Ganun dapat yung gagawin natin. Kukuha ka ng sequence between dun sa domain ng dalawa, no intersection nung dalawa. Kasi nga, sum, product, tapos quotient yung kinukuha natin. Pero, before that, ang gagawin ko lang issue number 1, si theorem 3.1. Hindi ko na gagawin si theorem 3.2 and 3. So, similar approach lang din naman mangyayari. Napaka-basic lang. Okay, so, ang gagawin ko, ito yung proof ng tip. Yung proof ng 3.1. Okay, so again, sabi ko nga, mag-let ako, let x sub n be a sequence, okay, in domain of f intersection domain of g. So again, pakibantayan yan, hindi ka basta-basta pwede gumawa ng x sub n. Okay, kung isang function nun, okay lang let x sub n be a sequence that converges to c, okay na yun. Pero ito nga, kaya ginalagay ko na domain of f para mas sure. So ito, dahil dalawa involved, domain of f intersection domain of g. Okay, so ayun yung gagawin natin. That converge. So that converges to C pa rin. Okay, so by definition, yung limit nung f of x sub n is equal to f of c. Okay, and yung limit ng g of x sub n is equal to g of c. So consider natin yung una. So consider natin yung limit nung f plus g of x sub n. Okay, so para ma-show natin na continuous yung f plus g, kailangan natin consider. So consider si limit of f plus g of x sub n. Okay, so ano mangyari dyan? This is equivalent sa limit ng f of x sub n plus g of x sub n. Okay, then paghiwalay natin, this is limit of f of x sub n plus limit of g of x sub n. Then by definition or by assumption, this is equal lang sa f of c plus g of c, which is this is equal sa f plus g of c. So f plus g is continuous at x is equal to c, and that is done. Okay, so ganun dapat, kailangan f plus g of c yung mangyari. Okay, so ulit si 2, ganun lang din kadali, ilalagay ko lang limit ng f of g of c. Okay, so that's all for this video. So hoping na naintindihan mo siya, tapos hoping na manood ka pa ng mga next video natin.